Welcome to Frequent Miler on the Air with Greg and Nick. This week, we're going to talk about American Airlines shutting down accounts, what's going on there, and college student credit card churning. Is it a good thing, bad thing? What am I doing with my son's credit cards? And finally, MSing Hytatt Globalist status. Does it really make sense? Those are our topics for this week. But first, as always, we're doing our reader feedback segment.
Everybody's favorite segment of the podcast, right? Where we get the reader feedback and get the honest reaction, unprepared reaction. So nothing canned here. This week, I am going to give the piece of reader feedback to Greg, and he has no idea which piece of reader feedback I'm going to give him. We're just going to get his honest, off-the-cuff response.
Yeah, this is exciting. Normally, I'm the one to dig up the reader feedback, and we wait to see how Nick responds, but this time it's up to me. Let's see.
So live response from Greg. So this week, our reader feedback comes from a post about the shutdowns that we're going to be talking about. There have been some shutdowns.
Okay.
Actually, over the past year, there have been a number of different things that have happened, changes in the system that have been, mostly attempting to thwart the type of behavior that either banks or loyalty programs don't like. And so Ryan comments on the AA shutdown post to say, sounds good to me. Get rid of the people who abuse the system. These people are the ones who cause mileage devaluations. What do you think, Greg? Should we be getting rid of the people who game the system and gain a lot of miles and points and fly for free all the time? I mean, people like you and me, right? Do we cause the mileage devaluations?
Wow. So this is getting into it. It's a little hard to answer that fully without us first talking about what these shutdowns are all about. Should we jump into that? Then I'll give the reaction to that.
Well, maybe we could, but then I feel like you get a little time to think about it.
Okay.
So you know what? So here's what we'll do. We should. You're right. We'll talk about that. But before we do, let me ask you, in general, not necessarily specific to this, in general, do you think that people that are earning outsized value, earning huge numbers of miles and points, whether not necessarily specifically through the AA issue that we'll talk about, but in general, are those of us who are collecting lots of miles causing devaluations in the programs?
Yeah, I actually think we probably are. So I think what's happening is, if you look at that, the fact that Americans tend to have tons of miles to spend, and so we see that reflected in some weird ways, like British Airways, when they changed the mileage requirements for the shortest flights to give an exception to flights that are into or out of the U.S. They made it a higher minimum amount, and I think that kind of thing happens because we are so flush with miles here. And so, I mean, I don't know if I wouldn't say it's necessarily the people who are skirting the system to get lots of miles. I think it's more that the system overall in the U.S., because of the way credit cards are so rewarding to the credit card companies, so they are throwing miles and points at us. And as a result, Americans, much more than most people in other countries, are flush with miles, and the result then is devaluations, especially of routes from to America, I think.
Interesting. All right.
What about you? Do you agree, disagree?
You made a great argument. I think you persuaded me to believe it anyway. So yeah, I don't know as though I had a firm opinion on that one way or another, but I think that does make a lot of sense. We do see those devaluations often. They seem very North American centric. And when you look at award charts in general, I would say that most of the sweetest of sweet spots are not to and from the United States. And that's probably not an accident because, like you said, we do get a lot of miles and points here. So I don't know if it's one subset. Like you said, I don't think it's necessarily even the people who are earning the most miles. It's rather just volume overall.
Exactly.
All of the people earning the miles. So,
Yeah.
All right. So that segues us into, speaking of earning lots of miles.
Yeah.
There is a segment of people who've been earning lots and lots of miles, and that seems to have caused a little bit of a reaction, a negative one at that. And some people are getting their accounts shut down. So what have you seen? What do you think about it?
So first of all, what we're talking about is American Airlines specifically shutting down people's loyalty accounts and also shutting down any award flights that they had booked, right?
Yeah, that's what we've been seeing. People have had award tickets canceled, and so you have to imagine there are some people traveling right now, some of whom might not know that this is even happening because they just might not have noticed yet.
Yeah.
And some accounts have been locked. It sounds like there's been a second wave now in the last day or two of more accounts being locked from people who were earning numbers of miles beyond what was probably intended by skirting the system a little bit and trying to find ways to earn more miles. And so, yeah, they've had accounts locked and shut down and
Okay.
award tickets canceled
Let's
out.
just back up a little bit, though, first to say one of the things that was happening over the last, I think, probably 2 years, maybe longer, was that American Airlines and Citibank were making available these flyers that had codes on them that would let you sign up for the American Airlines credit card and get the 60,000 or 70,000 points, or even 75,000, I think, at times, and skirt the rules about it being, I can't remember what the current rule is, 48 months between
24.
application, 24 with that
Yeah.
one. And so a lot of people were doing that over and over. There was a way to, you could buy those codes on Reddit and other places and just keep doing it. And so at least the first wave, it seemed like those shutdowns were people who had done that. But now the second wave, what's the theory about what kind of behavior led to these shutdowns?
I think that the second wave of shutdowns has thrown a lot of the previous theories out. It sounds
Okay.
like people aren't really sure exactly what's leading to it. There's speculation, yes, that it was the mailers because they were both physical and electronic mailers. There were people who surely were signing up with other household members and using codes that belonged to other people. And so I think that nobody knows for sure. There was another loophole for a long time. I don't know if it still exists. So maybe I'll leave that one out of this. Another loophole that enabled you to sign up for one card and do a product change and then sign up again.
Right. Okay.
And so that there were a couple of things that were happening, and I think that there isn't a firm consensus as to which of those it is. I think initially my sense was that the people who were shut down were people that American was suspecting of having sold the miles, because I think some people earned so many that they couldn't possibly use them all,
Right.
and sold a lot of them. And that activity does tend to draw negative attention from airline programs. It certainly wouldn't be unprecedented for an airline to shut down people that they think are selling or bartering the miles.
But am I right to say that not everyone shut down has sold miles, or at least they haven't admitted to doing it if they did?
Right, exactly, and it seems like it's widespread enough that I believe that probably not everybody was selling miles that's getting caught up in the shutdowns at this point. However, I haven't yet seen a comment from someone who said, "Oh my goodness, my account is locked and I have no idea why." So I don't think that it's happening to people who don't expect it.
Right.
So
right.
if you've opened one or two credit cards in the last couple of years or something like that, I don't think you got anything to worry about. And that's something you need to be shaking in your boots over. I think the people who are concerned know that they should be concerned because they know that they
probably did something that intentionally skirted the rules about how many credit cards you could sign up for and get bonuses, right?
Right. And I don't even necessarily have a firm opinion at this point one way or another as to whether that's okay or not okay and who's at fault there. And in terms of, the bank obviously allowed it and the airline obviously provided them, and it starts to get a little complex there.
So this is what I wanted to get into with your reader comment.
Uh-huh.
I have thought a bit about this, and the saying yay, these people who are skirting the rules got shut down. I can understand that sentiment, but what I think American Airlines, the first entity they should be going after is Citibank. Citibank did not protect American Airlines product
interest here at all. Yeah,
they had rules, and they left the floodgates wide open, and it couldn't have taken them long to see what was happening, but they didn't shut them down for ages. It took forever for them to address the openly available ways of skirting the rules. So again, I'm not saying that the people who skirted the rules should be in the clear. I think it makes sense if you knowingly skirted rules and you get caught. That I think that's okay. That there's some kind of repercussion. I think it's unfortunate that they're taking it to the extremes of killing already booked awards. That to me seems a bit draconian, but I feel like when we skirt the rules, we're always risking that there's going to be some kind of repercussion. And so if that happens, sorry, it's unfortunate. Everyone's upset about it, but I personally don't see that as a terrible thing for American Airlines to do. Again, what I think is terrible is maybe to the extent they're doing it with shutting down the flights. What about you?
Well, especially on short notice, it's tough. I do feel for the folks, and like you said, I think if you're skirting the rules, then you're skirting the rules, and you're accepting some level of risk, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think that in a lot of the things we do, we accept some level of risk. So even just getting in your car and driving, down to the mall or something every day, we accept some level of risk, and so I don't necessarily feel bad in the sense that, like, obviously something like this could happen. On the flip side, I do somewhat feel for people who have flights booked for the holidays in the next couple of days or the next week here that now might not have a flight to get to where they're going. Obviously, I think that if they had it to do over again, they probably wouldn't have taken that risk, at least on those flights that mattered to them.
For sure.
So I definitely feel for them somewhat in that sense. Let me ask you this, though. There was some discussion amongst people. Do people need to be worried about being sued by American Airlines for the value? Because the terms of the program do say that if you abuse the system, that they could come after you. Do you think that people who earned massive numbers of miles should start to think about how they're going to respond to corporate security? Because it does seem that, by the way, for people who aren't familiar with it yet and haven't read about it, that generally what's happening is people are locked out of their accounts. When they try to contact American Airlines, they're told that corporate security will contact them. American Airlines' official line that they're towing here is saying honesty is the best policy. Be honest about what you are doing, and that'll give you the best shot. I don't know if that's true or not. I do know that in the past, when I've read about people being shut down for one reason or another by the airlines, that it does seem that people who are honest had a better shot of getting their accounts reinstated anyway. So I think that there's perhaps some wisdom to that. On the flip side, I did see at least one person that said, I don't want my life ruined over this. You want to take away my miles or cancel my tickets, okay, but do I need to speak to a lawyer before I talk to corporate security?
Yeah, I don't have any knowledge to share that would help in that to answer that question. But at first I was going to say, oh, it's unlikely. But you think about what some of the airlines have done about suing people who have skirted the rules for lounge access. You remember that guy who was booking flights and canceling them and just in order to spend all his time in lounges. So we have seen, or people, wasn't there a United case or what, maybe it was Lufthansa, where someone was...
Lufthansa, I think.
Lufthansa, where someone was doing the hidden city ticketing.
Yep.
And they came after them apparently to maybe make a statement, basically to scare others. So it could be, they could do something like that. I could imagine that
world. I did, on the flip side, see a comment that made some sense to me and said many readers probably read the story a few months back about the man with the unlimited air pass. It was controversial as to whether he was abusing the system or not. His daughter, Caroline Rothstein, had written the piece about his story and what he had done, and kind of, I think, was a pretty decently balanced piece anyway, of showing both sides of the coin. But at any rate, by Americans' measurement, he cost them massive amounts of money over the course of 20 or 30 years.
Right.
And they didn't sue him. They shut down his air pass. But
so
didn't
that's good.
Sue him.
Yeah.
So that's probably a good sign.
Right. And I agree with that. One thing I do want to point out for people who say, oh, they were doing something wrong, they should have expected this. This is the first time I can remember an airline punishing the people who did something against rules with credit cards. So normally the risk you're accepting is the possibility that your credit card accounts will get shut down. And in an extreme case, usually you only lose your points when it's the bank points. But you could almost imagine a case where Citi shuts down your American Airlines cards and somehow tries to claw back the American Airlines miles, but nobody expected it to come from the American Airlines side of things.
Right, right. And that is a good point, and something that I noted when I wrote the post initially. That's what really jumped out at me when I first read the story was I haven't heard of the loyalty program itself shutting people down for that type of activity. So that's a first, and an interesting example anyway. Something that I think moving forward people will think about, but I can definitely see why some people didn't anticipate that and probably didn't think that those booked tickets had any cause to be concerned about tickets that were already ticketed, because that type of thing hadn't happened before. So
Yeah.
so an interesting story that we'll continue to monitor. Like I said, there was a second wave of shutdowns or account locks anyway. There's some private discussion going on around the internet. So if you're involved and you think you've cause to be concerned, I encourage you to do some reading around the internet, try and connect with other folks in the same boat so you can figure out what the path is going forward. But for now, that's as much as we know about it.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I think you told me there's a private Reddit thread now about this. I know that if I had been doing the churning of these American Airlines cards, which I hadn't been doing,
Me either.
I would certainly try to get into that private Reddit group so that I could stay on top of what's happening. And so I'd recommend if you're in that boat, try to get in there.
Right, and we have a link to the Reddit discussion in our post about this, and from there you'll easily find the link to the private Reddit group, which the last I read, it sounds like it was kind of slow going and adding people to it because there's some sort of a limit as to how many people they can add to a private Reddit group per hour. But I think there's somebody who's written code to be able to slowly add people to the group to be able
That's
to
funny.
add the maximum number of folks. So it sounds like there's quite a few people with a skin in the game, so to speak, with an interest in the outcome. So I would certainly encourage the same. I'm not in that boat, but I would want to know what's happening with other people.
Let me ask you something. This has been asked to me in the past, but why not? Why are you not in that same situation? A lot of people found it super easy to just keep picking up those codes and applying over and over and over, and it was easy miles. Why didn't you do it?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I don't have a great defense as to why. My defense as to why is just that we all create that line in a different place, and this is something that Greg has talked about lots of times when he speaks at different conferences and things, that we all kind of create our own little moral line, if you will, and it's not that I think my line is the right line. It's just where I draw the line, and so I didn't feel like that fit in with what I was comfortable doing, number one. And number two, I've been in the fortunate position where I've been able to generate enough miles for me to enjoy my travels for the last few years. I've done a lot of traveling. I've had a great time, and I haven't had trouble having the miles that I've needed for a trip yet. So I haven't been in the situation where I felt like I needed to amass 2 million miles all at once, because I'm able to consistently generate them at enough of a clip that I just don't need to do that. I don't think anyway. I don't know. What about you? What's been your answer?
Yeah, I had a few reasons why I didn't do it. So one was for the personal cards. I was on a path towards trying to get under 524. For the business cards, it's kind of part of the reason is kind of a weird thing, is just that I think Citi enforces having a different login for their Citi business cards, and I never log into that. And so I just find it awkward to deal with Citi business cards because I forget to log in, and then I might forget to cancel the card the next year and things like that. And so it's just purely like it's outside of my routine, and so I didn't want to do that. But more than either of those, I had been sitting on, between my wife and I don't know, something like 800,000 American Airlines miles for a long time. So years and years ago, I had gotten excited by posts by like Lucky and Gary of View from the Wing about how you could buy U.S. Airways miles for about 1.1 or 1.2 cents each. And so, and they would write about all the amazing things you could do with those miles. And so I bought a whole bunch through that type of thing. And I also earned a lot also from credit cards as well, but I just never had much opportunity to use the miles. And so I was sitting on a lot of miles, and it was like, why would I do, even though it's easy, why would I do much to collect more when I haven't found good uses for them? Now, recently, we've talked about, I found a great use with Etihad Apartments, but and there are plenty of great uses for American Airlines miles. It's just that my travel situation hadn't lined up with those great uses.
Right.
And so I'm all for grabbing the easy to get, low hanging fruit, but not when
but
my
your
stomach
basket
is full, my basket's
right?
full.
Right, and the baskets of a few other folks are full too. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing, and I think you make a good point in the sense that it also hasn't matched up with my travel for the last couple of years very much because I've been traveling with a baby and Americans lap infant policies to add 10% of the revenue fare, and so that's expensive. You're
Yeah.
booking award tickets and doing that, so I didn't have much use for them the last couple of years either. Now, you could certainly make the argument that I should have been preparing for next year when he requires his own ticket. but we've got some miles and points ready for that too. So
Yeah.
it hasn't lined up with my travel patterns the last couple of years either. I used a lot of American miles a few years back, but not as many these last 2 years either. So I was kind of in the same boat. No sense in continuing to hold massive amounts of miles that I can't use for years and years. So that hasn't been my play either. But for the folks who have, I know that there have been plenty of good uses. So if it fit your travel patterns, I can certainly understand the appeal of easy, low hanging fruit.
Right. Right.
So speaking of easy low hanging fruit,
Yeah.
or easier low hanging fruit anyway. Your son recently picked some low-hanging fruit, it seems, or at least
He
it's going to
did.
be low-hanging with your help, your assistance.
Right.
So you got a son in college, and he just picked up another 195,000 points and miles. So tell us about that. Now, and when I say tell us about that, I also want to talk about why he's doing that and whether or not that's a good thing. There were some readers who commented and didn't think he should be doing that. But tell us about what he opened and why. Let's start there.
Sure. Okay. So the hardest decision in one way was he got a promotional offer for a second business platinum card. He had opened a business platinum card last December when it was the last chance to get in on the $450 fee before it went up to $595. And by opening in December, we've been able to collect the $200 airline incidental fees two times so far on the card, and we'll be able to collect it again in January before he cancels the card after the annual fee posts. So we'll wait till the annual fee posts, make sure we've collected $200, don't pass go, and then cancel the card. Then he gets this mailer at an amazing time for a business platinum card. Early December, we could again collect $200 3 times before paying a second annual fee. And the welcome bonus offer was not amazing. It was $75,000 after $20,000 spend in 3 months. Not even a 6-month deal, 3 months. Right. So it's not by any stretch of the imagination an amazing offer, but what is special about it is to get an opportunity to get a welcome bonus on that card when you've already had it before. So this offer was explicitly for your second business platinum card.
Not even just when you've had it before, like even while you currently
have it, they're encouraging you to get a second one.
The second one, which I found very interesting. My wife received one of those mailers too, and I found that particularly interesting because in the recent Amex shutdown phase, there was some speculation that having 2 of the same card was potentially a problem. And
didn't even think about that.
I found it very funny to see all of a sudden that right after that speculation had happened, Amex was like, "Oh no, please open a second of the same card."
I wonder
special offer for you.
I wonder if the look at multiples of the same card is limited to personal cards. I don't know. We really don't know anything about that particular risk factor.
No.
I am a little nervous though. So I was nervous about opening a second one knowing that we were going to cancel his first one, that there might be the whole thing of why would you sign up for a second one if you didn't want this one?
Right.
So,
which the answer seems obvious: to earn the bonus. If you're going to offer it, of course, why wouldn't you? Right?
Yeah,
but
which
that answer might.
I mean,
not.
honestly, I always think in those cases you should be honest, and I don't. They are holding the big bonus in front of you, and if you can get it, good. His tuition lined up nicely, so we were able to log on to Plastic and pay his tuition with his new Business Platinum card. I didn't know for sure how much credit. Since it's a charge card, I don't know if they did explicitly say anywhere how much sort of credit he's allowed at any given time. I didn't notice it, but it went through, no problem. And so we're very close to finishing his required $20K spend on that card already.
That's incredible.
That's
incredible.
Yeah.
With an expense you were going to pay anyway.
With an expense we were going to pay anyway, and we will pay it back out of a withdrawal from his 529 account. So, yeah, that all works very nicely. Hopefully, there'll be no repercussions about closing his card in January. That's his first one. So there's that, and the other one that he was targeted for was one of those Delta cards. He had received an email offering it was actually, I went back and looked, it was actually the Platinum card, the 80K offer for the personal Platinum card. And as I said in my post, I'd forwarded that to you, and you had written a quick deal. You might have already been working on that quick deal, I don't know, but one of the things you pointed out in that quick deal was that you can scroll down and see other offers, including the business card offers. I hadn't noticed that. So
I only noticed that, to be honest, because I checked to see if I was targeted, and I wasn't targeted for the personal. I had the low garbagey personal offers. So I just continued scrolling down, and I was like, oh, but look, I've got these business offers at the bottom. So that's really where that came from.
And your business offers were good?
Yeah, the business offers were the 80K offers.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Were the garbagey ones, yeah.
So anyway, so I scrolled down and saw that the really good business offers were there, 70K for the gold card, 80K for the platinum and the reserve. And the gold, I figure there are 6 Delta cards that have potentially big bonuses, right? The gold, platinum, and reserve, and the consumer and business version of each of those. So by Amex rules, you have once in a lifetime, and so he has, for however long, can get 6 of those cards and get bonuses on them. And so the ideal thing is to sign up when the bonus is at its highest. And I don't remember ever seeing the gold or the others available for 70K or 80K. So I was most interested in the business one over the personal one so that it doesn't add to his 524 count. It doesn't show up as a new account on his credit report. Other than the potential for a hard inquiry, there's literally no impact on his credit report at all. In the case of Amex, they usually don't do a hard inquiry, and they didn't in this case. So there was absolutely no impact at all, positive or negative, by doing that. So that was a really easy decision. The only hard decision for me really is whether he should sign up for the Platinum card in January before the offer runs out. And I'm thinking probably yes.
In order to sneak in there before the annual fee increases, right?
Well, also the offer expires January 20th or 21st or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right around the same time. Yeah. Yeah, so that does seem like it'd probably be a smart play for him. So pick up, again, one of those top bonuses, because that's definitely the key. If you're going to sign up for the Delta cards, then you definitely want to apply for the Delta cards when the offer is at its highest, since you aren't going to get another chance to do that again.
Yep.
So since they fluctuate, you want to watch for those increased offers. So all right, so he's got some easy Delta miles coming now, then, thanks to that. He's got some easy points coming from paying tuition on the new Business Platinum card, and then there's a third card he opened, right?
Yes, he opened the World of Hyatt card. What I'm trying to do with his account is get him set up over time with all of the must-have Chase cards. I posted about which chase cards I consider must have. The idea being, if you're signing up for lots of cards, once you're over 524, meaning you've signed up for 5 or more cards in the past 24 months, you will not get approved for more chase cards unless you have the that little diamond thing that's like just for you offer. But so there are exceptions. But so there's a number of cards that I think are sort of essential for him to long term have in his toolbox. The Hytatt card is one that I think he will start to get value from, or we as a family anyway, will start to get value from in the near term, because when we travel with him, we often get him, now that he's older, get him his own room. This way, the annual certificate, that'll be a one night anyway in his own room, and of course the points for the bonus will also go to that. So that's all good, and it's just on a step on the way. I did post that. I think I made a tactical error there, which is he's not in any hurry to collect all the must-have chase cards, so we really ought to be watching for special, like, enhanced bonuses on these cards when we get them for him. So there was a United Mileage Plus card, bigger offer available, whereas we went for the standard Hytatt offer. And so if I were to do it again, I would reverse the two, but it's not like it's a huge loss. I don't think that the United offer will come around again, I'm sure. And so he'll pick it up then.
Yeah. Just wait for the next time for it to come around. So all right. So you explained very well how the Delta Gold business card really does no good, no harm, because it's not going to show up anywhere. So,
same with the Business Platinum, by the way.
Same with the Business Platinum. Yeah.
Yep.
So not going to do any good or harm. Not going to show up anywhere. The Hytatt card, though, of course, will. And there were at least a few readers who commented saying, why are you doing all of this with him? Why are you helping him open all these cards? Isn't this going to ruin his credit long term? Isn't he going to have a hard time getting a car loan or a mortgage or whatever else because of all of this? And shouldn't he have to just do it on his own?
Yeah.
So what do you think?
Let's tease apart. I think there's two legitimate questions here. One is, are we hurting his credit by doing this? And the fact of the matter is, if you do it right, you're actually helping. So we're helping his credit by, again, the business cards don't do any harm or help, but the consumer cards will, right off the bat, are going to add to his utilization ratio, or improve his utilization ratio, as long as he doesn't keep spending up to the max. So the utilization ratio, that's a significant part of your credit score, is how much credit do you use each month divided by how much credit you have available to you. And what you want is a small answer to that division. And so to get a small result to that division, you want a big denominator, a big amount of credit available to you. So he signed up for this Hytatt card. He added $5,900 in credit available to him. And that's really significant, because before this, he just had probably about 6,000 total. So we almost doubled. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's huge, because that makes it much easier then to manage if you are using it for some regular spend and or meeting the minimum spending requirements and whatnot. It does make it much easier to keep that ratio low.
Yeah, and so I fully expect by doing this, his credit score will go up with time. Like, there should be a very temporary hit because of the one credit inquiry, but I'm talking about 5 points or so probably. That'll go away in a couple months, and I don't mean the inquiry will go away, but the hit to the credit score will go away, and the utilization ratio will be a longer-term help to his overall score.
Right, and it's worth noting that getting that approved for that higher limit, there's the wisdom that's out there if you research about this, that higher limits beget higher limits. When you open new cards, often new issuers, now you eventually get to a point where this isn't true, but when you're starting out anyway, often issuers, when they approve you for a new card, are going to try to approve you for something that's at least around the other cards that you have, so that you have some incentive to use their card. Now, obviously, the people out there have opened 40 cards. It's not going to be the same anymore. Eventually, you're
Right.
going to hit the wall and hit a limit. But I would bet that the next card he applies for and gets approved for is probably going to have a limit that's closer to that Hytatt card than to whatever his highest limit was before.
Should be interesting. Well, we'll see. I guess the Delta card, which he hasn't gotten yet, it's too soon to know with that one because it wouldn't have been affected by the Hytatt card.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you'll have to look at the next personal application. I would assume anyway, and see what with a different issuer. Specifically, I would say because Chase is if you apply still with Chase, you're working on the same amount of maximum exposure anyway
Right.
with Chase. But if you were to go for a Citi card or an Amex Personal or something like that, I would bet $10 that the next one comes out to be around this within 10%. I would guess lower or could certainly be higher.
Yeah, yeah. So I addressed that question about the credit. Are we hurting his credit by doing this? The other question in there is, isn't it wrong of me to take over his finances so he doesn't learn himself how to deal with finances? And if that was the whole story, I would agree with that completely. But the truth is, with his first card, the Discover It student card, that was completely him. I had him sign up for the card. He has his own bank account. I showed him how to set up automatic payments to his credit card bill so that he pays in full every month. And he manages both of those accounts completely. I don't get involved. Shit. I just accidentally hit the stop button. So I hope if I press record now, it'll continue where it was. But
we'll see.
As I was saying, I haven't gotten involved at all in managing those two accounts that he has, the Discover It student credit card, which he uses day to day, and his bank account. And now he also has a no bank account, which is the SoFi account. So he has those three accounts that he manages, and we wall off all the other stuff that I'm managing for him, and I'm using the points earned as family travel points so that when he travels with us, we can use those points together. I would have been paying my own points anyway, so I don't feel like I'm stealing from him or anything. It's just
he's pulling his own weight. He's at the age now where he's contributing to the family.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean that makes sense to me. And I did see some readers who thought that helping him with the spend and managing the points wasn't necessarily good for him. But I totally agree. When I look at it, I say, well, that makes sense to me. That anybody who's into award travel knows that it requires a lot of points. So now that he's an adult and he can earn those points easily, and it seems to make sense to me that he would help along with those trips. Now, what's interesting to me is he not interested in using the miles and points himself? I mean, I was a college student once, spring break. I mean, is he not looking to use those points and take some trips of his own also? Or is he going to be doing that, do you think? Is he not interested at all in the game?
He's only been interested in small ways. So he last winter went to Chicago and then to Philadelphia to visit friends. And we did use points. He actually, one of the accounts he has is an Amtrak account that has points in it. So for the Amtrak portion, he was able to book that himself and everything. Nice. At the time, this was before we had accumulated miles for him. I used my miles to get him to Chicago. And so, yeah, going forward, I could transition and probably will to have him learn how to do those things. I'll still help him figure out what's the best way to book everything, but this will be a good way to teach him. But he hasn't been big into wanting to travel on his own or with friends yet, or not to. I've told him, if he wants to use his miles to go with friends wherever. He can do that, but that hasn't been a
Yeah.
priority for him yet. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's I think that's an interesting reminder that everybody's got different priorities. And recently I wrote a series of posts about best uses of miles to get to Europe or Australia or whatever. And in those posts, I've been focusing on business and first class, and I've had a couple of comments each time from people who say, "Hey, what about economy class?" And my view on that in a lot of places, for example, going to Europe, I typically find that the value in using miles for economy class just isn't the same as using business or first. But it's a good reminder when readers respond with that that's not true for everybody. For some people, the flying in economy class is a good value depending on where you're flying from, and it's what they're looking to do with their miles. And it's good that everybody's got different interests, because if we didn't all have different interests, we would all be competing for the same stuff all the time. So I think it's kind of interesting to see that someone who grew up with all of these miles and points is not necessarily interested in using them all just yet, but you're positioning him to have those things and have access to those for the long term. And I think that that's really valuable, because if at some point interests change and he decides that he does want to be able to do it, he's going to have access to a wealth of knowledge, and also to a credit history that's been built up, and accounts, loyalty accounts that have been built up and ready to go. So I really think that is doing him a great service in the long run. It's setting him up for a long-term future of success, and also ease in being able to do some of those things. I've known people over the years that have gone out into the world and become professionals, and all of a sudden needed a car loan or needed a mortgage or something, and had no credit history because they hadn't signed up for a credit card when they were young, and had trouble with those things because they weren't positioned early on the way your son's going to be. So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's a long-term help.
It is kind of interesting in that it's a very different thing than people have had to deal with when raising kids before. It's not something that comes up in how to teach your kid about finances or whatever. It's a whole nother ball game. And yeah, I think he's obviously well positioned. He obviously has someone he can turn to for help with these things. And I'm very glad to help all I can. And I'll be excited when I think there will come a time when he realizes maybe he'll have a girlfriend. He wants to take her somewhere special, and
he's like, well, I could really go anywhere,
and they'll go to Paris, and
Right.
and that'd be great. That'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exciting. Speaking of exciting stuff and going places, going to Paris, staying in nice spots and things like that.
Yeah.
You wrote this week also about,
Mm-hmm.
switching gears here, about manufacturing Hytatt Globalist status. So you
Right.
wrote about the different ways to manufacture Hytatt Globalist status. So you can have top tier status, get free breakfast, suite upgrades, all sorts of great benefits, 4 p.m. late checkout, stuff like that. And I read it and I was like, but Greg has titanium status with Marriott. So is he going to go stay at Hyatt's and check out at noon in order to pick up globalist status in the future, when he could just stay at a Marriott and get lounge access and 4 p.m. checkout? What are you thinking? Why manufacture Hyatt globalist status?
Well, first,
go after
don't
that?
forget I do have Explorer status with Hyatt, so I'll be checking out 2 p.m., not 4 p.m. But I've long said there's not a great argument for going out of your way to manufacture Hyatt Globalist, even though I think it's by far the best top tier hotel elite program. But the reason that it doesn't make a lot of sense to go out of your way for it is if you have friends like Stephen Pepper who have sorry, Stephen, you're going to get a lot of requests now, who have top tier
His inbox is
status.
full.
You can ask them to book you a, what is it called again? The
Guest of honor.
Guest of honor booking, and then you get the globalist benefits from that booking. And Hyatt also lets you transfer points to someone else for free once a month, so you can pay your friend for those points, and then they use those points to book.
Wait. Let's be clear. You can transfer the points to your friend so that
Right.
they can book for you. You're not paying anybody for points.
No.
You're
I
selling
didn't mean.
points here.
Yeah.
I know you didn't. I know you
But
did.
good for the
we
clarification, right?
Talked about the AA thing. I wanted to be clear that you're not buying and selling here. You're just transferring points.
Which is actually a good point. I think that there's risk of someone who's globalist selling access to globalist stays, basically. And I think that's going to get you in trouble quickly. That's my guess.
Yes.
So don't do that. But
That's why I wanted to jump in here and make it clear that this isn't a financial transaction. You can transfer your
yeah,
Hyatt points to a Globalist, and they can book the room for you. That's,
right. Now, if I remember right, there are some limitations to that. I think that if you want to use a suite upgrade, you can't do it as a guest of honor thing.
That's correct. Yeah.
I'm not. Yeah. So I don't know what other limitations there are, but there are a few where you're not getting as good as you'd have as being globalist. On the flip side, manufacturing it is not that hard, especially if you can generate spend easily. So the World of Hyatt credit card gives you 5 elite nights per year automatically. You need 60 to get to globalist status. And every $5,000 of spend, they give you 2 more nights. So if you can generate spend easily, you can get to those 60 nights even without going to a Hyatt hotel. If you have no plans to stay in Hyatts, though, there's really no point in doing it. But if you're staying 20, 25 nights a year, I think there's an argument to be said that it could make sense to put all that spend on a Hyatt card and put yourself over that, or to check into 3,500 point Hyatts once they're available in March and manufacture nights that way. So either one. Of course, if you actually have a real stay in a Category 1 Hyatt, all the better. But
All the better.
yeah. And so that's what I was thinking. And I went into the math thinking that I would find I'd be better off spending on my Bank of America Premium Rewards card, which earns 2.62% everywhere, than on the Hyatt card. So my thinking was, okay, I can earn all this cash back, use the cash back to book mattress runs as paid stays, just find cheap Hyatts. And before I did the math, I thought the outcome was going to be, it would be dumb for me to get the Hyatt card because I could generate stays with less spend on my Premium Rewards card. I did the math, and that was wrong. And the main reason it was wrong was because I forgot that when you're generating spend on the Hyatt card, you're also earning points, and those points can be used to generate additional nights. So that makes a big difference in how many nights you get from spend on the Hyatt card.
Yeah, it sure does. And it does make the Hyatt card pretty compelling in terms of putting spend on it. So I think it's a great argument for putting spend on the Hyatt card. But now I'm going to back up for a second and challenge something you said before.
Okay.
At the beginning of this, you said Hyatt, you think, has by far the best elite status program for top tier elites.
Oh, you're going to argue against that?
By far. No, do they have the best by some measures, perhaps, but by far? Why? What is it about Hyatt that stands out that makes them much better than Marriott? Marriott gives you 4 p.m. checkout. They give you lounge access. They give you breakfast. They give you silver status with United, which, yes, some people have recently been gifted top tier American Airlines executive platinum status. That's really new. We don't know if that's something that was like a one-time thing or something that's going to hang around. It's not a published program benefit like United silver status is with Marriott. So
True.
What is it about Hyatt that makes them above and beyond, like much better than Marriott?
Yeah, I'm kind of laughing here because you know the answers, but you're just deliberately trying to bring up the debate. But yeah, I'll humor you and we'll talk about it. So to begin with, you don't have to look up a chart to find out if you'll get free breakfast. You know you will, unlike Marriott. You can, when you do enough nights to get a suite upgrade award with Hyatt, you can use it to book that suite at the time that you book your hotel, as opposed to Marriott's Suite Night Awards, where you apply them to your stay and they don't even start looking for availability until 5 nights before your stay starts, and then you may or may not get the upgrade at all. And that to me alone is huge. The ability to upgrade to a suite at the time of booking means you can change your plan. Like you can make your plans around that. So I talked earlier about when I travel with my son, I usually get him another room. But if I know we're going to have a suite that has a whole separate living room and pull-out sofa or whatever, that's great. He can sleep there. I don't have to book another room. With Marriott, I would probably, what I would do is book another room, and 5 days before, if we do get the upgrade, cancel the other one as long as you can still cancel it, because different hotels have different cancellation policies.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's those are probably the two biggest overall. But I love the fact that Hyatt offers free parking for.
That's huge to me.
Now it's only for award stays, I think.
It is,
but still, that's fantastic, and that they waive the resort fees on paid stays for Globalists. They waive those fees for everybody for award stays, just like Hilton does. But for paid stays, this is the only chain I can think of where there's a way out of those award fees, sort of a written in stone way of getting out of those resort fees, and that can be huge. I mean, there are some resorts that charge astronomical resort fees, and so being able to get out of them totally, that's really big. So those are the ones that come to my mind as the biggest things. And they also have a lot, even though they're a small program, they have a lot of very desirable high-end properties that are really nice. And even their sort of mid-tier, I tend to like them. I enjoy staying at Hyatt's a lot. So all those things go together, and plus small luxury hotel tie-in is a nice thing. You enjoyed that stay in Germany.
Absolutely, but you don't need globalist. Global status doesn't do you any good.
Oh, that's true.
Luxury hotel tie-in. Anybody, no status.
Good point.
Just points can enjoy that, and I think that's interesting. I don't know how long that'll last, but I think that the fact that people with absolutely no Hyatt status get free breakfast and late checkout and room upgrades at SLH properties is awesome. I mean, I got a nice suite upgrade at a castle in Germany with my Hyatt Explorer status, because the status didn't matter. It was the fact that I was booking through Hyatt. I used my Hyatt points, and breakfast was terrific. So yeah, I mean, that's to me interesting, but not a reason obviously to manufacture globalist status. I will say, yes, I think globalist is great, and I miss having top tier Hyatt status. So I only miss it a little bit because I do happen to know people who shall go henceforth unnamed with Hyatt Globalist status. So I've been able to enjoy some fantastic guest of honor stays this year. Actually, not only Stephen Pepper. I happen to know a couple of other globalists who hooked me up with incredible guest of honor stays this year. So it's a great program. I think the guest of honor thing alone is pretty awesome, and it'd be awesome to have, I think, in order to be able to do that for other people too. That's nice to be able to help people out that have helped, that have helped you, to be able to give them some help too. So
right.
There are definitely some benefits. So are you going to just forego Marriott altogether next year and hope for a soft landing? No Marriott stays? Or are you going to try and maintain Marriott status? You're going to book a meeting with Marriott and try to get yourself to platinum status and also manufacture Hyatt? How much status does one guy need?
We will see. I haven't decided what I'll do there. I will book a meeting, but we talked about that last time, or maybe 2 times ago. I don't remember that. I'll do it partly just for our readers and listeners, so that I'll have the experience. We can talk factually about what it means to book a meeting and how the whole process goes.
How it works.
Whether or not, I think chances are good that I will do enough Marriott stays to get to platinum one way or another, but I don't know for sure. I don't have concrete plans for how that'll happen. I do still have a 7-night certificate that I haven't spent yet. So if I do spend that, that'll be a big help towards that overall goal. I don't need 2 near top tier statuses, but
it's kind of fun to have.
It's kind of fun to have. I enjoy the pursuit, right? It's kind of fun to think about. How do you get there? What's the best way? What's the cheapest way or most fun, enjoyable way to get there? And what I'm currently thinking on the Hyatt side is I'm hoping to stay at a lot of different SLH properties. And so, during that time, while I'm not yet globalist, I won't even need anyone to book a guest of honor for me, because as you said, you get all those benefits anyway. and I like the whole idea of these small luxury hotels. I just really like the whole boutique hotel experience when it goes well. I feel like they go really well, and we'll see. It's just fun to me to go explore these different places. There haven't been a lot of write-ups either about a lot of these different places yet, and so it gives us an opportunity to let people know about some good and bad that's out there that hasn't been well covered, whereas most Hyatt properties, at least easily accessible ones, have been written about ad nauseum, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. And I was going to say, along with that, the different tips and tricks and things that you learn along the way in terms of manufacturing the status are obviously useful for readers too,
yeah,
to know how fast those elite nights post when you hit your 5,000 spend, and does it make more sense to use a cashback card or the Hyatt card? You don't have to think about that because Greg already did the math. So
there you
things
go.
like that, I think that there are lots of benefits that come out of it. I'll give you a little bit of a ribbing here because it's kind of fun to say why bother
Sure,
manufacturing
yeah.
the status, but
No,
I think
it's
there
always
are
good to
some
question
better
everything in
points.
this game, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So all right. So you'll know that next year at some point you can contact Greg for your guest of honor bookings instead of Steven. And
Oh boy.
but remember, you can only transfer points in or out once every 30 days. So it's like 12 people all year long that you can do guest of
That's
honor
right.
stays
That's
for.
right.
So that's how Hyatt kind of limits that, which makes some sense, and it's an awesome benefit when it works. I will say that. So all right, very good. Well, so I think that just about wraps us up for the week.
Yeah, I guess we're done. This was
Yes,
a
we are.
quicker podcast than usual, but I don't think people will be crying too much. But I do want to mention that I've heard quite a bit lately from quite a few people too that they're really enjoying our podcasts. And so these were unsolicited people just running into me saying, "Hey, I really enjoyed your podcast." So I think we're doing something right. Maybe it's fewer ums. Maybe it's
I didn't count many. I was listening today, and I
oh,
didn't
good.
catch many on. So
I
I
know I
think
still do
that reader's
some
gonna
of
be happy.
yeah, I know I still do some of them, but now when I do it, I'm painfully aware. I realize it, and it kind of stops me for a second as
Saw
I'm
him twitch a
talking.
little bit.
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
it.
but that was good. I definitely have improved there, and I think that doing this week every week is helping us improve. I think that moving to Squadcast as a way of recording these, it makes it so much better for the listener. We're both now using microphones. We're getting good audio quality, and Squadcast is preventing bad internet connectivity from ruining the listening experience. And so we've been doing that maybe the last 10 or 12 times or so. Huge difference. Do you listen to the podcasts?
I usually listen to a few minutes of it to see how it works. One thing I did recently was I pulled it up. If you got Google Fi, by the way, and you haven't yet signed up for your free Google Mini, the new Nest Mini, I think that they're still available in a couple of colors, maybe. So if you're a Google Fi subscriber and you missed that quick deal this week, you can get one of those for free. And I did recently find that I could say, "Okay, Google, play Frequent Miler on the air," and it went out and found the podcast.
Oh, cool.
And all of a sudden, there we were in the living room talking,
Yeah.
and my son was perking up like, "Dad."
That's my dad.
Yeah, so I listened a couple of times
That's
like that
funny.
because that was just kind of neat to hear. But I don't listen every week because I listened to it while I was here, but I have listened to snippets of it anyway.
I sometimes do listen, and when I go for a walk, I have these, wireless headphones. I got these cheaper ones that I thought they were so good because they sound perfect to me most of the time. But then what was happening was they weren't always syncing perfectly, so I was hearing the sound bouncing from my left to right ear.
Uh-oh.
That was very unpleasant. So now I'm thinking I need to get a new pair of.
Should have jumped on the deal that I wrote about for the Samsung Galaxy Buds. Although those of us who got in on it are still waiting for the cashback situation to get resolved. So maybe you're better off not having gotten
I did jump in on those, not the $20 part of it because I didn't have a Microsoft store nearby to go to, but I did order a pair, but that's a gift for my son Tyler.
Hopefully he's not listening to the podcast.
I don't think he listens, so no fear there.
No fear there, huh? Yeah. So I haven't actually even used them yet, but I did pick them up because I ordered them. I don't have a Microsoft store nearby either, but I'm a traveler, so I was traveling to Orlando and picked them up at a store there the other day. So we'll see. I haven't yet tried those. I've had other wireless ones in the past, and I'll listen to us first. Maybe that'll be my way to break them in to listen to FM on the air.
It's kind of interesting. You'll hear things that you've probably forgotten about. At least that's what happens to me. I find it good to listen to after about a week, and also to get ideas. What could we do better? What could we do? What should we do different? And so on. So just something to consider.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of what we can do better and change up, feel free to leave us your feedback. We love to hear from readers. So please send us emails, comment on this wherever you see it or listen to it. We're always monitoring reader feedback, not just for the reader feedback segment at the beginning of the podcast, but believe it or not, but to be able to get better and improve along the way. So we love to hear from readers about both what we're doing well, but also what you think we could do better.
Yeah. Or even if there's just ideas, other segments we could do like reader feedback. Are there other things that we could be doing as a regular feature? That would be cool too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's always good to get good ideas. So if you want to leave us those comments or share your ideas with us, you can find us at thefrequentmiler.com. That's frequentmiler.com. So that's our website. You can also, of course, find us on YouTube. Frequent Miler is our channel, and you'll find the Frequent Miler on the air broadcast there. You can download this in podcast form if you're watching it here on Facebook or you're watching it on YouTube and you want to listen to it instead during your commute while you're at work, so on and so forth. You can find us for download on all of your favorite podcast platforms, Apple, iTunes, Spotify. Was it Podbean that we added last week?
Podbean. I think that's right.
Podbean. There you go. So we're out there in the different formats. And if there's a format that you'd like us to be available in that we're not yet, let us know. And if it's easy enough, then we'll get ourselves on that format as well.
How does a listener who were not on their platform, how are they listening to us now? That's what I want to know.
Well, yeah, right. How are they? Well, probably they're watching us on something like Facebook or YouTube.
Oh, it could be.
But if you want us to be on your preferred listening platform, then you can let us know that.
There you go.
There.
Okay.
You can also find us on Twitter at Frequent Miler on Twitter, or find me at Nick at FM on Twitter. So lots of different ways to get in touch with us. On Facebook, by the way, I mentioned you might be watching this on Facebook. If you're instead listening to it and you're like, where can I find you on Facebook? Frequent Miler is the Facebook page, and you can search Frequent Miler Insiders to join our Facebook group, connect with other travelers, ask and answer questions, and communicate with other folks who are interested in this hobby and this space.
All right. Very good. Bye, everybody.